This is Gray Merchant of Magic, and you already know that I like overthinking creature types. Today I'd like to run through some of the more contentious Black Border, non-obsolete creature types. The ones that have generated intense discussion among players, Wizards of the Coast, or both, for a wide variety of reasons. In alphabetical order, the first creature type I want to talk about is Advisor, which was oddly used for people in leadership positions for many years, or free agents as the MTG Wiki refers to them for some reason. I personally don't think the Obsidat have ever been seriously considered by any professional sporting organizations. I would be unsurprised if this strange flavor quirk contributed to the eventual creation of the Noble type. There are a handful of creature types that have implied mechanical relevance, which makes their use difficult in sets that don't care about that type, even when they would flavorfully fit. I'd put allies, mercenaries, and rebels in this category. The strict gendering of angels and demons is weird. I've talked about it at length. I hope they continue to be more flexible. Demons were also retired in the late 90s due to fear of satanic panic pushback. They were brought back in the early 2000s as the game's stability grew and prominent demons in pop culture were accepted. Next up is Ape and Monkey. I'm not sure anyone has a problem with them except for me, but it's my channel, so I have a disproportionate impact on what gets talked about here. Let me clarify that I am not anti-ape. I love apes. They're my favorite animal. I'd return to monkey any day of the week. No, my issue is with how the ape type has been used historically. For many years, the ape type was used for monkeys as well, with existing monkeys receiving errata. This was thankfully eventually rectified, though some monkeys are still inexplicably labeled as apes. This had also resulted in weird cases like Tainted Monkey. Also, I know artistic license exists, but has any magic artist actually seen a real ape before? Some players get very upset when an archer doesn't have reach, even though the majority of them actually don't have it. There are a lot of different ways to mechanically represent archery. It's odd that army is inherently connected to zombie when it's such a general term. I would be very unsurprised if it eventually gets disconnected. Bears are an interesting case where due to a bunch of mechanically identical cards, players have a very specific view of what size and cost a bear should be. For this reason, and because it doesn't mechanically care about bears, there was a pushback against Goreclaw, likely leading to Ayula. Beebles seem to currently be considered too silly for non-acorn magic. I think homunculi cover a lot of the same ground though. It is arguably weird how expansive the cat type is, especially compared to dog, which I'll discuss later, as both wild and domestic cats get the same type. No other options come to mind for me though. Cephalids changed radically between their two appearances, and some Octo fans were opposed. I waded into this conversation myself. I think this demonstrates how people perceive different creature types in a very interesting way. If, tomorrow, I tell the press that a plane will have a radically different goblin, nobody panics, because it's all part of the plan. But when I say that a few cephalids will look different, well then everyone loses their minds. I think the more versions of cephalids that we see, the more accepting people will be of each version. Because I'm a hypocrite, I do not care that the crocodile creature type is probably used just as inaccurately as ape used to be. It's more about what feels right or wrong than hard rules, in my opinion. During the Grand Creature Type update, the dinosaur type was replaced with Lizard Beast, only to come back in Ixalan. Despite making the occasional creature that was clearly a dinosaur, before then, Wizards was hesitant to label them as such. According to a Wizards employee, a dinosaur world was unlikely because they do nothing, a take which I find confusing and wrong. I'm glad Wizards changed their minds. Dog is one of the big ones. After a brief period of experimentation, the type Hound was used until fairly recently. Jackals and hyenas were also temporarily rolled into the type. I maybe agree with the former, but not the latter. People complained about this for years, most notably Mark Rosewater, with the argument that hounds are merely a subset of dogs. Now, hound can also be used to refer to all dogs, especially in an archaic setting like Magic's, so this never especially bothered me. It seems a lot of people were very passionate though, so I'm glad they're happy. The popularity and frequency of dragons leads to a few things happening. Firstly, they give red and green access to flyers that they don't get as often as the other colors. Additionally, some see their status as red's iconic creature type strange when so many are in different colors. Despite the prominence of dwarves in traditional Western fantasy, they've had a minimalized presence in Magic for much of its history. Numerous Wizards employees have noted that they compete with the more popular goblins for placement in sets. However, in recent years, there has been more of a concentrated dwarf push. To mixed results? The Ecologists dwarves have been criticized for not feeling fantastical enough. Other than that, I feel the efforts have been liked enough. The Elder type is ambiguously and arguably inconsistently defined. Elk are another example of general meaning trumping exact scientific terminology, though it's been noted that it could have been a mistake. It's also another example of me not caring. I don't understand why Helion is a unique creature type, and I'm apparently not alone. The human creature type was not actually introduced until Mirrodin, 10 years into Magic history. As the default humanoid race, many thought it shouldn't have been a type. Eventually, Wizards acquiesced in the name of consistency and with existing choose a creature type cards in mind. When this change was initially announced, a poll found that players opposed it about 2 to 1. However, an examination of longer form responses found that the longer people thought about it, the more positively they felt. This announcement was also made with a variety of reassurances, of which I would say not all was stuck to. The first was that there would be no widespread errata, which did end up occurring during the Grand Creature Type update. It was also said that this awareness would lead to more creature type diversity. Another common response was that a type for humans was okay, but the word human is too mundane. However, no good substitute was ever suggested. Others suggested giving specific human civilizations, like the Banalish and Keldons, individual types. This was ruled out for limiting the ability to combine old and new cards. Richard Garfield also signed off on the decision, predicting that players would get used to it, and in 5 years prefer it. It seems he was right. Very soon after, more players were in favor of the human type than opposed, and nowadays few question it. A separate controversy is that, similar to dragons, humans show up regularly in all colors. For this reason, some question their status as White's characteristic race. Hydras are the least supported iconic creature type, though not that far behind Sphinxes. It seems Wizards has more trouble placing them in various planes than the others. Wizards has also shown a reluctance to give any Hydras sentience, which isn't the case with the other types. Recently, there was a big discussion on Blogatog over the jellyfish type, with some arguing that the type should be renamed Jelly to reflect supposed scientific consensus. As far as I can tell, while some scientists have championed the rename, many still use the terms interchangeably. And jellyfish is still the term most used by the public. Kithkin are creepy. I much prefer the original Ratfolk designs. The core have some lore conflict, with Zendikar being stated as a home plane, despite it previously having been mentioned that they arose from the Dominari and Metathran project. This focus on various origin stories has also led to players caring more about why they're on specific planes than with most creature types. Merfolk took a break in prominence and lost their characteristic status for a few years due to the flavor issues of fully aquatic creatures. After fan demand, they returned. Wizards also realized that they could just give Merfolk legs. No one was stopping them. The mouse type came into existence because Wizards didn't want to use a different rodent in their Cinderella homage. I think that's silly. Seems like an arbitrary line to draw when Eldraine had so many fun tweaks on fairy tales. I, for one, am very in favor of at least the occasional positively portrayed non-humanoid rat, given their highly social nature. At least the mouse type got returned to after and not immediately abandoned like so many small mammals before it. Naga were given their own type instead of snake due to the resonance of their inspiration. This is why minotaurs aren't oxen, for example. Perhaps because said inspiration isn't as well known to Western audiences, many would prefer they be snakes. Some people want the Nephilim to be legendary. This has not occurred because it would functionally change how they work. This request has lost some popularity as more 4-color commanders have been created. It was once said that Oof might be consolidated into Fairy due to the unclear distinction between them. However, several have been printed since then, so it appears that won't be the case. While Phyrexians have existed in Magic for many years, they did not receive a type until Kaldheim. While requests were common, issues such as characters that were flavorfully but not visually Phyrexian were noted. My theory was that the type was added because there were so many on the horizon. This change led to the weakening of Infect decks due to cards like Plague Engineer now being able to choose Phyrexian. Skeletons are often considered taboo in China. This might have lessened their appearances and also led to region-specific art of various cards. Another issue they possess is the expectation of Regenerate, which fell out of favor with Wizards. Trolls have this same problem. Some people really did not visually like the more humanoid Chandler versions of slivers. Some also opposed the change from affecting all slivers to just yours. For some time, Squirrels were kept out of Black Border for being too silly. However, in recent years, due to fan demand and the champion of Mark Rosewater, they made quite a resurgence. It has been stated that Viashino should perhaps have been lizards from the beginning. The name is unique to Magic, making them arguably comparable to groups like Leonin, which have animal types. Walls are a strange type that some might call a relic. In addition to being often non-artifact creatures, despite usually being man-made and inanimate, they also had rules baked into them, and that they inherently could not attack. Eventually this was changed to Defender. Because of their weirdness, they went away for a few years, but nostalgia brought them back, now with attempts to make them generally more animated. Finally, werewolves, another creature type with widespread mechanical expectations, while also tending towards complexity. I'm not sure if players would accept non-transforming werewolves in large numbers, especially on Innistrad. Thank you for watching. The Magic player base is so big and contentious that I'm sure I missed something, so please add anything you've noticed below. Commenting, subscribing, and liking really do help immensely. And big thanks to my patrons for helping make this channel possible. If you enjoy my content, please consider supporting me there in exchange for a variety of perks.